The Hormuz crisis is not merely an energy crisis. It is a test of the entire post-1945 global financial architecture. And unlike the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal, even the Strait of Malacca, there is no detour. Pipeline alternatives exist for some Gulf states, but they are limited in capacity, often politically complicated, and represent a fraction of what Hormuz carries daily. You cannot reroute the Gulf. This is the question that historians will wrestle with for generations. Because the vulnerability of the Strait of Hormuz was never a secret. The warnings have existed in academic papers, military assessments, and geopolitical analyses for more than 50 years. So what went wrong? What could have been done differently? Energy diversification, earlier and harder. The world knew in 1973, during the first oil shock, that dependence on a single maritime choke point was existential risk. 50 years later, that dependence had only deepened. A serious global commitment to renewables, nuclear energy, and energy efficiency, not as environmental policy, but as national security policy, could have reduced the Strait's leverage dramatically. We had the knowledge. We lacked the political will. A genuine international framework for Hormuz. The Strait is governed by UNCLOS and the concept of international transit passage rights, but enforcement is ultimately dependent on whoever has the most ships in the water. Years upon years have gone past before the recent resurging escalations. A treaty guaranteeing neutral administration with real enforcement mechanisms was entirely achievable. It was never seriously attempted. Regional diplomacy instead of proxy warfare. The fundamental instability of the Gulf region was not inevitable. Decades of external powers treating the Gulf as a chessboard, arming competing factions, sanctioning rather than engaging Iran, choosing military solutions over diplomatic architecture, produced the conditions for this crisis. The Islamic Republic of Iran sits on the northern shore of the world's most critical waterway. Not engaging that reality diplomatically was a strategic failure of historic proportions. Strategic reserve depth. The International Energy Agency's Strategic Petroleum Reserve System was designed exactly for moments like this. But reserve builds were inconsistent. Political short-termism meant reserves were drawn down for price management rather than preserved for genuine supply shocks. The buffer was never as deep as the vulnerability demanded. Pipeline redundancy as global infrastructure. A Marshall Plan-scale investment in overland and undersea pipeline alternatives, treating them as global commons rather than national commercial assets, would have given the world genuine bypass capacity. The technology existed. The financing frameworks could have been built. The will to do it in peacetime, when it would have been cheap and uncontroversial, was absent. We did not inherit a world that depended on 39 kilometers of water. We built it, and we could have built it differently. 35 million years ago, two continents collided. An ancient ocean disappeared, and something extraordinary was left behind. A narrow gate, a geological accident, a divine threshold between the Persian world and the wider sea. For most of history, the people who understood its power held the world in their hands. Achaemenid kings, Portuguese admirals, East India merchants, British naval commanders. They all knew what this strip of water was worth. Somewhere in the 20th century, we stopped thinking of geography as destiny. We believed technology had made us immune to terrain. We built a global economy on the assumption that narrow passages would always be open, that rational actors would always choose commerce over conflict, that the gate of peace would always live up to its name. We were wrong. The Strait of Hormuz was never just a shipping lane. It was a mirror, reflecting the stability or fragility of the entire international order. Right now, it is showing us something we may not want to see. 39 kilometers. The fate of nations, the weight of history, the physics of the deep, the prayers of the ancients, all of it, right there. The gate of the world. If this changed how you see the world, share it with someone who needs to understand.